Hello, I'm super excited to have Dr. Shin share with our class today to discuss his article that he co-wrote with Joseph Masciarello at the Drucker School. So marketing and innovation in the Drucker management system. And what is so cool about this article is that it talks about Drucker's principles of management by objectives. And the most important ideas for management by objectives is innovation and marketing. That's really the only thing that matters. And that's what you do in order to maintain a customer and provide value to the customer. So I hope you enjoy his presentation.
Customers. Myself, I'm a one person, but I'm a customer of a desktop computer. In the 90s, in the early 2000s, I only had a desktop computer, a PC, right? But then I also became a consumer or a customer of a smartphone, which does similar function, but I became another customer of a smartphone and another customer of tablet PCs and so on. So this one person becomes multiple different customers, and by doing so, it creates larger markets. We all have become multiple customers, right? Even if some of the products and services offer pretty much the same function, for some reason we purchase more and more and more. We become customers. We are multiple customers to multiple different markets. And is that good or bad? As an individual's economy, it may not be good, but as the whole society, it sort of creates running of the economy. So let me show you this. So as a private sector company, yes, it is creating wealth is the key thing, is the purpose, but we can invest all together. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people, and with Cynthia, 10 people. We can invest like $50,000 each and make $500,000, and we can run like a coffee shop on Wilshire. We could do that, right? I think it could be profitable. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think it could be. It's a busy street. And there are only 2 coffee shops. One Starbucks here and another one Coffee Bean over there. So maybe somewhere in here, in this corner. Right?
I mean,
So if we do that, we might be able to make profit, but does that create market?
no.
So let's think about it. Why did you say no? That does not create a new market.
Because it's not new product.
It's not a new product.
The market
So-
already exists.
The market already exists. So on this area, on Wilshire, the coffee shop goer market, there is a certain number of people who would go to coffee shops. And there are already 2, which are divided by Starbucks and Coffee Bean. So if we put another one here, it's pretty much just sharing of those customers. So their profit would, or their sales would go a little bit down, and we might just take some of their revenue. So if market already exists, if it's divided by Starbucks and Coffee Bean, and if we just put this much of our coffee shop, that's what's going to happen. Just taking that little bit of pie from the existing market. We might be profitable, but as a society where private sector, we're supposed to support the other sectors with more wealth. By doing this, that's not going to happen. And that's why Peter Drucker's idea of the purpose of private sector for-profit companies is to create customers, to make more markets, new markets, to create wealth so that this sector could offer more blood for other sectors to function. creates a customer? What is it that creates a customer?
Innovation?
Innovation.
Marketing.
Innovation and marketing are the only two functions that actually create customers. So Peter Drucker talked about 8 different areas as an organization, as in management, 8 different functions of management, or 8 different objectives of management. Basically, in order to run a business, you need 3 resources. You have the objective. You have to make decisions for the 3 resources. Human resources, financial resources, and physical resources. Basically, if you want to run a business, those are things that you need. Right?
Yeah.
In order for us to do our little coffee shop here, we need us employees, and we need the money, the $500,000 that we're going to put in, and the physical resource of chairs and all these things, coffee machines and the whole thing. Okay, and all these 3 resources, they have to be operated through productivity management, and then marketing and innovation. So these 3 resources, through productivity, they create marketing and innovation. They work on marketing and innovation, which then leads to profit management, profit requirement, it actually is. Requirement and social responsibility. Okay. Why the profit requirement? Why does it say not for profit, but profit requirement? Because what requirement is it? In order to do this function, in order for the profit to sustain this function, you need that much profit in order to repeat this again and again. That's why it's called profit requirement. And why the social responsibility? Because all these resources come from the society. Right? So those are the 8 objectives. And if you think about these 8 objectives, marketing and innovation are the only 2 functions, 2 objectives that actually create customers. All others are sort of supporting, or all others are sort of cost centers. They're all cost centers, except for these 2 are the actual revenue centers. So these 8 objectives, if you think about these 8 objectives, and think about the curriculum of various business school curriculum, all those courses are sort of stemmed from these 8 objectives. Human resource management, human organizational behavior, and so on. Financial resource management, finance classes, international finance, and those courses. Physical resource management, operations management, queuing management, and all those. Productivity management, supply chain management, marketing and innovation, of course, and profit requirement, accounting, social responsibility, another area of business. So these 8 objectives are what current business school curriculums are sort of, that is because, so he experienced totalitarian Nazi society. And he never wanted this world to repeat that. So how do we not repeat this? That was his idea. That was his concern. How do we not repeat the totalitarian? Okay, in order not to repeat totalitarian society, Peter Drucker thought of this society is society he thought of this concept? Society of organizations. This whole society is made up of very small organizations all together. That's the concept of society of organization. So if this is a society, there are small and large and small and large, all these different organizations. So aggregation of all these different organizations, that becomes a society. If you think about that, that is very true because we all belong to some sort of organizations. Well, is to, in Peter Drucker's concept, is to resolve the tension between freedom and responsibility. We all have tension between freedom and responsibility. Like I said, Cheyenne doesn't want to sit here, she wants to go home and sleep. That's the freedom. And there's a clash between that freedom and as individual's freedom and the responsibility as a student. Right? Of staying here and listening to this. Right? There's that clash. And we don't want that.
But we cannot escape from responsibility as well.
Exactly. That's why, if organizations are well managed, we might be able to actually either lower or resolve the tension between the freedom and responsibility.
Yeah.
So, myself, I'm an employee of this organization, correct? And I myself is also an individual. There's that clash between responsibility as an employee and my freedom as a human being, as an individual. How do we solve that clash? Right? How do we solve that tension? That's the idea of Peter Drucker's management. Okay. So we're in society of organizations. We get that concept, right? But what are the organizations then? What organizations are we talking about? There are. What organizations are there? There are three main different groups of organizations.
Oh, yeah.
Three main groups of organizations. First, there's the public sector. Public sector, such as, what are the public sector organizations you can think of?
The government is.
Was it government? Yes, the government. The military.
Yeah.
Yeah. Police. Government. The military. Like fire station, and so on. Infrastructure. That's the government, the state, the ministry of in the states or something.
Municipality.
Oh,
Many things.
okay. There's another sector of organizations called the social sector. Okay. What are the social sectors?
Like the organization work for well-being of human.
Yeah. Non-profits, basically.
Yeah.
Like the university, like the church, like any religious organizations, like or like the Red Cross, or any non-government NGOs, non-profit organizations, UN. Those are all social sector organizations. Schools, religion, and non-government organizations, and so on. Right? Okay. There is another sector called private sector. What are the private sectors? Organizations. What was that? Oh, I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about those organizations.
Other than public and social, all are the private.
All are the privates, which are basically for profits.
Yeah.
For profits, such as
Banks.
like give me a name, like Chase Bank,
Yeah.
Google,
Apple.
Starbucks, and so on, McDonald's,
Yeah.
and so on. These are all private sector organizations. All right. So we have all these three different sort of types of organizations, and again, each organization has responsibility and freedom. If you think about it, they all sort of live for started to think that cola or this black drink isn't really
Sprite?
good. Yeah, that's what Sprite is, right? But it tasted like cola, but it was clear. That was called Crystal Pepsi. So it was a good idea, it was a new idea. But did it create customers? It really didn't. It really didn't create customers. The marketing wasn't really there. So they're reviving it and so on. So there are multiple, in history, there are multiple things that, yeah, it was an idea, but the marketing function wasn't there, thus the customer wasn't created. Those, such examples, there are so many examples of such things. And we're talking about these, we're talking about innovation, and who comes up with this novelty? Among these workers, the knowledge workers come up with their own novelty to come up with new function, which with the marketing function could create new markets. That's the idea of innovation and marketing, and that's why Peter Drucker is saying that all other functions are cost centers except for innovation and marketing. They actually create markets. They actually create wealth or increase revenue. So, okay. So, in order for you to come up with your own business mission, in order for you to come up with your own business idea, which Peter Drucker calls this portion as the theory of the business. What is your theory of the business? Okay? Meaning that if you are a business, if you are a coffee shop, you have to have your own theory of business. How will your business will sustain, or how will your business basically make money? That's the theory of the business. Okay? And in order for you to come up with the theory of the business, you first have to think about the two things: external environment and internal environment, which means that you have to look into the outside, the trend. What's out there? What are the customers like? What are your competitors like? That's what external analysis, or you have to understand the environment. Internal, you have to understand your competency. What are you good at? What are the resources that you have? What are the core competencies that you have? Those are internal ideas, right? So considering those internal and external, that's where you come up with your idea of serving the market. So this whole concept, this very simple concept, is the theory of the business. Okay? Once you have the theory of the business, you create an organization, you create a strategy, you create objectives and so on, and then you get a result. Okay? Like running your business. What kind of result? A result that meets your expectation or does not meet your expectation. What does meet your expectation mean? It means that your theory of the business actually is the right theory. Okay? Once the result is as expected, you go back. You can do the same thing again and again. Okay? What about not expected? Not expected. You could, a loss is an unexpected result, or your revenue could be even more than what you had thought. That's another unexpected result. Then, with an unexpected result, what do? You do another external analysis. Because something externally might have changed, or you might have not understood the external correctly. So, with an unexpected result, you do another external analysis. Or, your internal analysis could have been wrong. Or, because of the external changes, you might have to have certain competencies or certain change. You have to go through certain changes in your internal. How do you do that? That's where innovation, the function of innovation comes in. Through this innovation function, you change your internal competencies, right? That's how this whole system runs. Anyone, we all heard about SWOT analysis, right? It's a very simple concept, but strength and weakness, opportunities and threat, right? If you think about it, strength and weakness is internal. Weakness and threat comes from the external,
Yes.
right? So internal external is it's an old concept, but it's a very important concept. So performing this external is the marketing function. Understanding customers, understanding the current market, understanding and offering the right services or products for that needs. Doing that analysis and understanding such market trend is the marketing function. And through these activities, once it's unexpected, through an innovation which gives you a new internal competency or resources. That's the innovation function.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
Go ahead.
external means what the market is, right? And internal is, are we capable to provide those things to market or not? Then what's our mission to accomplish those objectives, and what are the results?
Good.
So this is a total circle for that.
Good. So, for example, what's the richest company today? What company has it? Aramco.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aramco, which is Saudi Arabian gas. Oil.
Before it was Apple, and they surpassed.
They're all. So, Aramco or Apple, whatever it is. Let's talk about Aramco and the king of Saudi Arabia. He's the richest man in the world, and so on. All right. So these internal analysis, we understand that cash is their big strength, or those financial resources is their big strength. They can invest and really start new businesses, right? So that's one of their sort of key resources, okay? And they're doing external analysis, and the whole world, there are just so many things that the market needs. One of the things is the cure for cancer. Of course, the cure for cancer is always in big need. Would Aramco invest in cure for cancer? It does not meet their core competency, even though market analysis says that it's there. So that's why the market analysis, the external analysis, and internal analysis, they have to sort of communicate each other. Once they communicate, that's what the mission of the company becomes. Okay? Apple, it has the technology and all that. So where should they go into? So if you think about Google and Apple, there's a little difference between the two. Both are very high-tech companies, but Google has the core competency of software tech. So external analysis says that people do demand a lot of these new innovative ideas and innovative services, and Google offers such services through software, while Apple doesn't. Apple does it through products. Okay? And Google once probably had seen unexpected results where customers actually demand very big, there's a huge demand for smartphones. So Google had purchased Motorola as an innovation function, which by purchasing Motorola, it gives them internal sort of competency, strengths of the hardware, which isn't really going that well, but that's how these businesses go through innovation and marketing functions and the theory of the business through these concepts. So we're talking about marketing as the key objective or the main idea today with the Peter Drucker's idea. The reason why I talked about all these different things in the beginning of all these totalitarian idea and freedom and responsibility issues is because as an individual, as an employee, as an individual and an employee at an organization, we all are part of the organizations, but we want to be an individual. At the same time, we want to be an employee. How do we do that? Once you innovate, once you become a knowledge worker who innovates, who does the innovation and marketing functions, you can really become an individual as well as with being an employee. For example, I used to, a long time ago when I was in college, I saw this TV commercial, which it showed like a gold medalist, and the video sort of rewinds, and this gold medalist becomes a little boy, and he works at a McDonald's. This big rock star, and the video rewinds, and he works at a McDonald's, and at the end, the line says, "Everyone starts at McDonald's." Right? That was a McDonald's commercial. So I went to McDonald's and I asked for a part-time job there. I just wanted to experience that. So I worked there, and McDonald's has, the whole system is already set. So as an employee, you don't have any freedom. You just have to function within the guidelines of McDonald's. Even frying these French fries, once you open the frozen fries bag, you put it in the basket and you put in the hot oil for 30 seconds or so, and you take it out and you shake it for 3 times, and then you put that back in, and the whole manual's there, which makes the perfect McDonald's fries. That's all great. So once the system's all there, as an employee of that system, you really have no freedom. So throughout that whole 8 hours of working, or whatever, part-time, 4 hours of working there, you as an individual does not exist there. You as McDonald's part-time employee only exist there. Right? So only the responsibility exists there. Does that make sense? So you sort of, for that 4 hours, 8 hours of working there, you sort of give up you as an individual. You sort of give up the freedom, right? But if you come up with a new idea of doing things, then your knowledge, your freedom sort of has a way into that responsibility. Because an innovation, a new idea, it's your own thing, it's your individuality. And so I was flipping burgers, and I asked the manager to give us a longer spatula, because most of the times we flip 5 or more burgers at a time. So instead of using the short spatula, I asked for a longer one, which was a very small systems innovation. But just having that, it just made me so happy and made myself as an individual's existence there during the 4 hours of part-time job. So by doing so, employee and an individual sort of coexisted. That's the thing about innovation. That's the thing about being a knowledge worker, and once you come up with innovation, you really can become, as an individual, can become part of that, part of the responsibility, and freedom could sort of coexist. And that's how such tension could be resolved. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Individual with responsibility and innovation would go up, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's the idea of Peter Drucker, and that's how, by doing so, by everyone becoming a knowledge worker who strive to be a responsible employee, responsible citizen, and at the same time, very innovative and free-thinking individual, the society can run without the totalitarian idea repeating. That's the concept of Peter Drucker, and that's where marketing and innovation sort of functions within that concept. Okay. All right, thank you. It's America, maybe the private sector has more power. Maybe. So, and that's why companies' social responsibility issues and the shareholder responsibility issue, those two are always the big dilemma of a private sector companies. But if they only focus too much on the social responsibility, maybe they might become more like a public sector. And if they focus too much on their shareholder wealth, their power as a private sector might become larger and larger, which creates imbalance among the three sectors. So what's the right balance is always the issue.
But I think this is not like quite easy to make balance among these three sectors.
It is very difficult, and that's why we have the political system of what we have today, all this democratic society where we have three different power separation in the public sector, and
most of the countries in the world they are suffering because of these things, you know.
Yeah, it's always a big thing. So that's why. So Peter Drucker's idea of this functioning society and the power balance amongst the three, that's a brilliant idea of really easily understanding well-functioning society.
Can you talk a little bit related to this on Peter Drucker's thoughts on what for-profits can learn from nonprofits and vice versa? I thought that was a really fascinating idea.
One great thing about social sector is that people in the social sector usually are in the social sector because of their passion. It's a little different. For-profit sector or public sector, people are involved in people are employees of such organizations in those sectors more because of the money or more because of other reasons.
But it's still passion, but different purpose, right?
Yes, we'll get there. So I get what you're trying to say. But social sector, if you think about social sector, like as myself, as a professor who's part of a university, which is a social sector, my passion really is the education and teaching and my research. So it's not the money, it's not the glamour of being powerful. It's not powerful at all. So that's why knowledge working becomes more prevalent in the social sector because of the passion prevails the other reasons of being there. So that's why in private sector, Peter Drucker's been talking about, in order to run private sector for-profit companies in more of innovative way and in more of knowledge workers environment, we have to learn from the social sector that we have to be able to, so the private sector has to be able to offer workers such passion where they can really exercise their passion to the results of the companies, which today's many companies are offering such opportunities. Like we see in like articles or news a lot where Google offers these great opportunities for employees to allocate their time for more creative work, more of company work, and even some time for social work as well. So those are some of the things that Peter Drucker talked about, how that they should learn from the social sector where passion prevails the other reasons of work, so that innovation could come naturally.
So it means like Drucker's management system we can implement on every sector, right? In public, private,
Of course. So he started off focusing on the private sector. In his early writings, he started off with the public-private sector just because private sector is the one that really offers the other sectors to function with the wealth. So that was his very first thing, and then he did his second, or later on his life, he focused on nonprofits a lot in his writings. He focused on like Girl Scouts, the army, what was that army?
ROTC.
What is it that?
Part of the university.
Yeah, all these
Yeah.
nonprofit organizations, and maybe later on he could have, if he were still alive, he could have worked on the public sector organization management as well. So he started with for-profit, but his idea was to run organizations correctly so that such totalitarian idea wouldn't repeat.
And maybe which organizations or maybe even nations apply better like these theories? Like, can we mention some of them, or
Wow.
can
Patagonia
successful?
is a big one.
Yeah, there are many companies that Peter Drucker had mentioned, and that the literature talks about when using with Peter Drucker's idea. Like Patagonia is one of the places. But you're talking about the society that runs.
Society or like
Or
a
companies?
nation or maybe an organization that like used
Yeah.
Drucker's ideas. Even nowadays, like just for a reference,
I
then
think
like
so. Like Patagonia is very often discussed in Peter Drucker's literature.
When we did the Drucker Symposium in Tokyo with Duco, we studied Uniqlo as an organization that implemented Drucker and Ito's management philosophy. Costco was also one, and Patagonia. Pretty lovely.
I didn't really like the social responsibility. I just couldn't figure like a way to convince, a way to find convincing arguments, because I know,
Around social responsibility?
yes, like I believe I just find hard to find like convincing arguments, because I know maybe other shareholders, other ideas there is too hard to make them to believe in like, that give you away as a part
There's
of
so
the
much
business.
evidence out there, and in the next part of our class, I'm gonna talk about an article that actually discusses a point that makes a case that consumers want to purchase from brands that are socially responsible or socially conscious in some way. So we've talked about those trends and how the market has been moving, but you know, there's so much evidence out there and why social responsibility actually makes sense for the bottom line.
It should, otherwise we might collapse, like there's too much freedom in capitalism, it's kind of dangerous.
And that's one thing I think is fascinating about Peter Drucker's work, which for me as a student of his work, I always thought it was fascinating how he understood that business was also part of a social good engine that took care of its employees, because if you don't take care of your employees, you don't have a properly functioning business, and you're gonna have people leaving, you know, the company and talking crap about you or whatever. So taking care of employees is important, taking care of the customer is important, the environment outside of the business is important, because all your customers see that work you do and they're like, wow, I wanna be associated with that company, you know? And I wanna do work with that company. So all of those things matter, and once you track it over time as a business and you compare yourself to other people who might not be doing that work, you'll probably find that your profits are, you know, above and beyond what your competitors are doing. And there have actually been a lot of studies on how being socially conscious and responsible in business does actually equate to profitability.
Like ethics and morality that we can take that from social sectors and all.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And the passion too, and a lot of those points in passion, you're seeing a lot of private sector adopt those ideas, because we talked about that earlier on in class, and how wearing your brand and what you stand for is so important for your customers, because they want to know what you're about, what you stand for, and if they're going to be voting with their dollars, they want to work with a company that they know what their values are and that they align with that. So that's becoming more of a cultural norm now, and you can use that in terms of marketing too.